There was a point when I was watching it with my dad where we see the Jordan scuff scene,
Yo!
and he audibly just went, "Oof."
In pain.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Ladies and gentlemen, prepare for a cinematic odyssey through the 100 greatest films spanning from the roaring 1920s to the cutting-edge masterpieces of 2024. Carefully curated from the lovely people on Letterboxd. Two intrepid souls embark on a journey through a treasure trove of timeless classics and groundbreaking contemporary works, where each frame embodies the enduring magic of the silver screen. Grab your popcorn and join us on this epic expedition through a century of cinematic excellence, where every film promises to enchant, inspire, and leave an indelible mark on the soul. And now, for your listening pleasure, here are the LetterBros.
Welcome everybody to the newest episode of LetterBros, where we let a wheel decide our fate and what movie we will watch next, based off the top 100 movies on Letterboxd. As always, that's Parker, and I'm Felix. How we doing today, buddy?
How's it going, Felix? It's been a while since we hopped on. It's been we had some behind the scenes chats today, and think for the few of you that do tune in every now and then, we're gonna probably switch to every other week, every other Friday, just because Felix and I lead busy lives outside of the watching movies, and just think we'd be able to get it out more consistently that way. So. Yeah, starting out every other Friday, which is great. Gives us a little bit more time. I feel less pressure to break up like my viewings of the movie, because I don't know about you, but oftentimes like I'll sit down for an hour and a half and watch that much of a movie, and then I have to go and do whatever, and then come back and watch the rest of the movie.
Yeah,
And
I have to
sometimes
do that too.
it's not the best way. It's not the way that it was intended to be watched.
No.
So
So for just like, the overall quality of these episodes and to be able to, dedicate time to sit down and fully enjoy the experience, because I also hate that when like I have to like break it up into sections and it just doesn't make for like a quality like movie watching experience, which not saying that like the last couple movies have not been like we've been able to have really good discussions on the films that we've already seen, and some of our best episodes have come from movies that I've wholeheartedly admitted to just cutting up into pieces. But I
mhm.
think for the better part of the rest of this list, it's going to be good to just kind of dedicate time to sit down and watch a movie. And, with the busy lives that we lead, it's the only way to be able to do that is to break it up into every other week. So,
At the end of the day, we're just trying to do the right thing. And with that being said, do you want to dive us into this summary?
absolutely.
It's pretty
So
good, right? It's pretty good.
yeah, that was amazing. That was a good joint. Speaking of joints, if you were listening to the last episode, we pulled Spike Lee's classic film "Do the Right Thing" from 1989, which explores racial tensions and a community dynamics in a Brooklyn neighborhood during a sweltering summer's day. The story follows Mookie, a young pizza delivery boy, as he navigates the escalating hostility between the neighborhood's diverse residents and the Italian American owners of Sal's Pizzeria. The film culminates in a tragic confrontation that forces the characters and audience to reflect on prejudice, justice, and the complexities of human relationships. Pretty much your standard Spike Lee movie. I've seen this. I've seen Black Klansman. I've seen Malcolm X. This is definitely like the blueprint for what Spike Lee would be making for the rest of his career, essentially. So, obviously Spike Lee is a big figure in the film community. He's made countless other movies. We won't talk about the Old Boy remake, but
I don't think I've seen any other Spike Lee movies.
they kind of follow like the same pattern, but I think that's what makes Spike Lee a very interesting filmmaker. I mean, Black Klansman kind of is the closest to what I think felt more like Do the Right Thing, where it was the story progresses and then towards the end, Spike Lee will wrap up the film with like the message of the movie.
I
And
see.
like Spike Lee obviously is not one to kind of throw the message behind the story. Like he puts it up front and in your face. Like literally this movie ends with a picture of Martin Luther King and Malcolm X with quotes from both of them in terms of like protesting with violence versus nonviolence. Obviously, this is something that was prominent between those two figures throughout their careers. So it's very interesting that this is a message that we see in 1989 and it's still prominent to this day, which is absolutely insane.
I will be seeing Spike Lee's newest upcoming movie, Highest to Lowest, though, and which
Yes,
is
absolutely. I'm excited for that. Which I forgot that he did the remake for Old Boy, so I'm like, I don't know how this is going to turn out.
yeah, we'll see. I'm excited to watch the original Old Boy soon at some point on this list.
Hmm.
But dude, I was really impressed with what Spike Lee did with Do the Right Thing, acting and directing in it. This is his first film. Is that correct or
No.
no?
He's
Well,
had a couple films. There's even a comedy in there. I forgot what it was called, but no, I think this is what like Spike Lee was already a pretty prominent figure. Like he was already directing and writing.
sorry, I have it here. He did She's Gotta Have It in 1986, and then
Yeah.
School Days in 1988, and then Do the Right Thing 1989. But still, and he did a really good job creating a movie outside of the performances, because this is really a movie that tells a lot of its story by the way that things are shot, and sometimes with characters even like semi breaking the fourth wall to talk at the camera. There's one scene that I really love in it with the where they're all saying how they hate each different subsect of the neighborhood, and it goes around to each individual person saying directly to the camera like the things that they dislike about the other communities in the neighborhood. And I thought that was really really effective storytelling. And also Spike Lee's performance is good. Like it's nothing crazy, but it's just really impressive when someone's able to do it all like that. So
Mhm.
I want to start by commending Spike Lee for this, and I'm glad that I finally watched it. You and I both said when we pulled it that we've been wanting to watch it for a while, so I'm happy that this came up when it did. I want to run through the main cast with you real quick as well. Is that cool? And then we can dive into more conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. So, of course, we have Spike Lee as Mookie, Danny Aiello as Sal, Ossie Davis as the mayor, Ruby Dee as Mother's Sister, Giancarlo Esposito as Bugging Out, which I thought he was going to be in the movie a lot more. Bill
Yeah.
Nunn as Radio Raheem, Richard Edson as Vito, John Turturro as Pino, Roger Gunvir Smith as Smiley, Rosie Perez as Tina, and, of course, Samuel L. Jackson. Wow.
Just say
Samuel
Samuel Jackson.
Samuel Jackson as Mr. Senior Love Daddy. Love his character in this movie. So
Yeah, I
good.
was gonna say I love I
He's kind of
love
our
his
narrator.
role as like the narrator of the movie basically. Like he's obviously not narrating everything like beat by beat, kind of like what he
He's
does
not a
like in
narrator, but he's our narrator. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. But he's still able to like kind of intervene and still be like a part of the main cast, but like I really see him as like this kind of narrator of what's going on in the movie, which is really cool. It was really funny to be to watch this movie with my dad and have him like point out all of these people and be like, "Damn, is that Samuel Jackson? Oh my god, is that Martin Lawrence?" Like just all of these like younger baby-faced versions of all of these actors, especially my dad is a huge Breaking Bad fan. And when Giancarlo Esposito came on screen, I was like waiting for him to like react and just nothing.
Really?
Cause he like didn't even know, like
He didn't
register that that
recognize him?
was him. Cause like, I mean,
Oh,
he
that's
looks
funny.
so young in this movie and he just,
He
it's
does. He does.
such a different departure from like, obviously, like when he performs Gus. After that, pretty much every character Giancarlo did after that point was just Gus. Like, it's just
Right.
Mandalorian,
The
he's
boys.
basically just Gus. Like, and it works. Like, he plays that character very well. So it was really interesting to see Giancarlo play something completely different. And I was all for it. Like, he obviously is the match that like starts the big fire of this movie that I honestly didn't even know about. I thought this was going to be just like a straight up comedy or like slice of life of the neighborhood in Bed-Stuy. So once
Yeah.
like his stuff starts, that's when I was even more surprised and more like locked into this movie. So props to Giancarlo.
Yeah, I
But
think just bringing it back a little bit to Sam L. Jackson, his character does a really good job of enhancing the sense of community in this movie. And this movie does feel like it has a very strong sense of who all the characters are. It feels very lived in and alive, which is awesome. And there's
mhm,
little moments where Senor Love Daddy will be like, I see Mookie walking by and calling out the things that he's seeing from the window area that
mhm.
he's got on the radio station. And just this movie on the whole, it kind of reminds me of one of my favorite movies, Fast Times at Ridgemont High, that type of movie where you're kind of meandering throughout the story for much of the runtime. There's not really an overarching plot that's kind of developing, but it's still really enjoyable. And there's still, each character has such a unique perspective that you're still interested in watching them because they're interesting people just living their lives. Not
Mhm.
every movie has to, be a bank heist. And
Yeah.
I really, really like that about this film. And I did like that it kind of culminated in some form of final climax and go out with a strong message and give you something to think about at the end. I think it does help to make the movie a little bit more memorable too, and kind of stick in your mind, rather than
Exactly.
just being a fun movie that you watch about this neighborhood in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Um,
I thought it was interesting that we got this movie after watching Nobody Knows, which obviously in the sense of that they are two completely different films, but it's also like they're both put a camera out and just watch what happens in the lives of these characters. Like it's like what you said, there's not like this overarching and developing story. Like the letterbox synopsis did not do this movie justice, but I loved that about
no,
it.
it
It
didn't.
gave us literally like one little pebble in a sand in a beach of what this movie actually is about. Like I thought that once Giancarlo came in, like that was gonna be
Yeah,
like everybody's like, yeah, we're all gonna get together and we're gonna make sure that there's an African American like star on the wall. And that scene happens and you don't even hear about it for like another 30 to 45 minutes of the movie. Like you just kind of see the neighborhood just live out this hot day. So I thought it was really cool to see that we get two movies where you're basically just a fly on the wall. Obviously this one felt more like stage play-y as opposed to like
yeah,
documentary style, but I was all for it. Like I loved getting to visit like these little sections of Bed-Stuy. My favorite was like the three older gentlemen that are just kind of sitting around doing nothing, just like Sweet Dick Willie, my favorite character of the movie. He was so funny. But then just getting to see all of these other things progress, especially everything going on in Sal's Pizzeria, where like you see like, Danny Aiello, who fucking kills it in this movie as Sal, kind of be that bridge between like, Pino, who obviously is very against being in the neighborhood and obviously is racist towards the people in it, and then you have the younger brother Vito, who is like the opposite end of the spectrum where he's all for it. He's like friends with Mookie, and Sal is kind of like that in between. Like he respects the people in the neighborhood because that pizzeria has been established there for many years. Like he even says like there's kids that grew up on my food,
yeah,
and like you see that like he has some sort of sympathy until he gets pushed over the edge with Radio Raheem and that whole situation where like his true colors kind of really show. Which is also like kind of I felt really sad watching that too. Like, I started to feel a little bit of sympathy towards Sal. Like, like I didn't really know like what the message was trying to bring. Where Mookie is kind of slacking off. He's obviously like the worst employee ever. Like this man straight up goes to deliver a pizza and then goes home to take a shower for 2 hours and comes back.
yeah,
So obviously like there were some things that Spike is trying to make you feel a little bit sympathetic towards Sal, and then
he also is the one that starts the riot on the taking over of the pizza joint. Like he throws the trash can through the window.
Mookie does, yeah, exactly. And that was where I kind of like, and that's where the message kind of gets a little bit like, what do you want me to think, Spike? Like, because
Yeah. I think it was insinuated that Mookie did that because, and this is the way that I kind of rationalized it. Mookie did that because he knew Sal would get insurance money, and it would be a way for everyone else to like, everyone's angry in that moment. Like, Radio Raheem just died. Everyone
yeah.
has all of this
And it
hatred and
wasn't Sal's
sadness for
fault.
Dice.
Like, honestly,
No,
like,
not Sal's fault.
yeah.
Like, but still, like in that moment, like it seemed Mookie knew that there needed to be some kind of igniting because
Like,
of
like,
how
he
angry
kind
he
of had in
was.
the back of his mind that he knew that this was going to happen. Like,
And there is a lot of hatred boiling up throughout this film. Like again, the film does a really good job of like having the characters kind of passive aggressively hate each other. There's no real like super direct angry confrontations. Like people aren't beating each other up the whole movie, but even between like mother sister and the mayor, like and the two Korean shop owners and the three guys across the street, like everyone is mad at everybody here, but they're all just kind of coexisting until finally it just blows up in the climax
mhm,
at the end of the movie. And
exactly.
I thought it did a really good job of boiling the water, so to speak, before
Yeah,
explosion.
it was a nice rolling boil. Like, it didn't hit you with it immediately at the beginning of the movie. Like, it's very effective once it does actually happen, and it's all thanks to Giancarlo Esposito at that point. Like, he seems to be the only one that wants to boycott Sal's Pizzeria, and everybody is just like, "You're dumb. Please leave." Until Radio Raheem gets a pretty negative interaction with Sal when he brings his boombox. Like, Radio Raheem is seen throughout the entire movie with a giant boombox, and he's playing the exact same song over and over again. "Fight the Power" by Public Enemy, which the movie starts
Mm.
with this like,
Rosie Perez.
yeah, with Rosie Perez and the boxing gloves. Like, that's how we start the movie, with that song, and it continues to play throughout. Like that's where I'm like kind of like trying to figure out what Spike is actually doing, because obviously Spike is known for just putting the message forward, and he's gonna tell you exactly what he's thinking immediately. We see it in all of his films. So this song is meant to be like, we're supposed to be fighting the power and fighting the oppressors that come through in the black community. But with Radio Raheem, it's, he's playing this song over and over again. There's scenes where everybody's telling him to turn it down. It's so loud. To which my dad, while watching this movie, he was like, "Oh yeah, I had a boombox like that," and it would blew my mind that like he had when it ran out of battery and he goes to the store and he's like, "Get me 20 C batteries."
Yeah.
I was
No,
like,
D
"Dad, that took
batteries. D
20
batteries, not
fucking
C
batteries."
batteries. Remember that was a thing.
Yeah, and my dad was
D,
like,
not
"Oh
C.
yeah." But then obviously, like, he goes to the store, the radio's really loud. Sal is obviously telling him to turn it down, but in a very angry way that he doesn't appreciate. So that's where he then jumps on, with Bugging Out's plan to boycott the pizzeria, and it ensues in a riot. They loot the pizzeria after Mookie throws a trash can through the window, and it leads to some images of police brutality. That the police in this movie, like, they weren't like completely awful at the beginning. Like, there's a
Yeah,
scene
right.
where a dude comes through the neighborhood in like a fancy car, and the teenagers like open up a hydrant and get it completely soaked, and they're kind of like in the middle ground. Like, they're like, "Did you get a guy's name? No. Okay, then there's not much we can do." Like, they weren't like blatantly awful people. But then
Mhm.
this riot ensues, and they get a hold of Radio Raheem, who is on top of Sal beating him up, and it results in them putting him in a chokehold and essentially like strangling him to death, which, again, crazy imagery. But the message here is very clear with any Spike Lee joint, and it's crazy. It's honestly absolutely crazy.
Now, this movie is supposed to take place over the course of a day, and it does. But I didn't feel that. It felt like it took for me it took course over, over multiple days. Did you feel that at all?
So that's what I felt too, and that's where will go into like the pacing part of it when we do the rankings. It kind of felt like you were gonna have the movie end at night. And so when we get to the night portion, I'm like, oh, I guess we're like towards the end of the movie. And then I had to pause the movie because my dad went to the bathroom. And I was like, what the hell? We still have 45 minutes of this movie left.
Hmm.
So it does, like, and we'll dive into it more in the rankings, but yeah, it definitely. I felt like it could have taken place over the course of multiple days, and maybe that would have helped with the pacing because I thought it was going to just take place, and it does take place in one day, but it certainly doesn't feel like that at all.
I think. How do you feel about moving into the ratings?
I feel great about it. Let's freaking do it.
I,
Let me
I, I
just.
just want to say before, like, I love when a film can have general, like, obviously there is such thing as right and wrong in this movie shown as well, but there is a general sense of moral ambiguity between like what is the right thing. And Demare says to Mookie early in the movie, like, always do the right thing. And that's kind of the only time you really hear that phrase. And I think it's interesting then that Mookie goes on to be the one to ignite this, retaliatory attack on Sal's pizza shop. I don't know. It's interesting. I'm thinking about it a lot, which is good. It's a good movie.
Yeah, and that's going to definitely be a good way to lead into our rankings here. So yeah, so in terms of enjoyability and rewatchability for me, I went and gave this film a 9 out of 15. Obviously, like watching the movie through, it's funny, it's, dramatic at some points, and I really did enjoy like the experience of finally getting to watch Do the Right Thing. It's just not something that I'm going to just, pop on and rewatch every so often. This is definitely a movie that you experience it for what it is, and you kind of, give it a little bit more time before you revisit it again, but it's not really in at least in my opinion, this is not a popcorn movie.
For me, it is. I love this type of movie when executed correctly. Just those slice of life movies that have a large cast, but manage to make every character in that cast someone that is genuinely interesting. So it doesn't matter who's on screen. It's switching between characters, and they're all just going through life. I love when a movie executes that well. When it's done poorly, those are some of my least favorite movies. But when it's done well like this, they become one of my favorites, typically upon subsequent rewatches. For me, I'm going to put it at a 12, borderline 13. It's up there for me. I think upon a second watch, if I still feel the same way, I would adjust my rating and put it to a 13. But right now, 12 feels good.
Yeah.
For story, again, it's kind of meandering, but still, we're getting the story of this day in Brooklyn. And while the stakes until the end aren't necessarily very high, I still thought that there was a good story being told. I give it a 12 as well.
I agree with you there. I also gave it a 12 for the story that we're being told here. Obviously, like it's like we mentioned before, it's not an overarching storyline. Like it's not like we're following the step by steps of this story throughout, kind of like how we mentioned in Nobody Knows. But I mean, just the kind of slice of life that we get here is executed to perfection, and obviously the message that Spike Lee is putting in the front for us is still very impactful to this day, which again will lead more into my next score. But I did enjoy the story that we got. So leading into lasting impression, this is definitely a 13 out of 15 for me, just mainly for the like the message that Spike Lee has presented to us here, and how it's still relevant to this day. Like watching Radio Raheem's death scene was very like disheartening and very just like obviously thinking about like George Floyd and all of that happened in the 2020s. Like it's still crazy that this is something that we're still talking about, and that Spike Lee was on the very forefront of portraying this message and this kind of activism through film. And so obviously this movie has left a huge lasting impression in terms of that. A cultural aspect, this movie is an absolute fucking vibe and just time capsule of like the late 1980s going into the 90s. So just props to Spike. This is a good joint.
Have you seen Fruitvale Station?
It's been a very long time.
Talk about movies about police brutality that just make you so angry that
I
you
do
just
want
need
to
what.
rewatch it though, especially after I just watched Sinners.
I give lasting impression of 14 out of 15 for Do the Right Thing. For both the reasons that you said, both the ending that leave you like thinking about, the dichotomy between ways to fight oppression, be it through nonviolence or through violence, and where the gray line is kind of between the two. But also because it does feel like a time capsule and a true slice of life that feels very grounded and something that you can immerse yourself in and continue to think about. And also, Fight the Power was that. I think I saw something that it's created for this movie, which also lasting impression there is crazy. While you're pulling that up for visual and auditory appeal, I give it an 8 out of 10. And I don't have a whole lot to say about the visual and auditory appeal. I thought that it's cool that, like I said, with the POV shots where the characters are talking directly to you. And also, I think that some of the shots do a really good job of making us feel like we're genuinely there in that neighborhood, which is awesome. But an 8 out of 10. It's nothing like in the 9 or 10 level for me. What about you?
Just to go back to what you were saying before, yes, this Fight the Power was made for this movie, which is crazy because it
Yeah.
is such an iconic song. And it definitely, I thought it was really crazy that this song was literally just talking about the aspects of this movie. And I thought it was just pure coincidence, but now it makes more sense that, like, obviously this song was made for this movie. So shout out to Public Enemy. I also gave this movie an 8 out of 10. There were shots that I wasn't like super crazy about. One thing that Spike Lee loves to do is like these angled close up shots, and we see that a lot with scenes with Radio Raheem, especially the
Yeah.
initial confrontation he has with Sal. Where sometimes that works, and then when he goes to like get batteries from the Korean family, there's also another angled shot where I wasn't like a super big fan of. But what I really do love, one is the soundtrack, but two were like what you mentioned before, like the scenes where they're just like essentially saying slurs at each other, where they like zoom in to like each representation of the neighborhood.
Hmm.
And I loved those shots. I thought those were very effective. Spike Lee definitely knows his way around a camera. And shout out Ernest Dickerson, the cinematographer for this movie, because those shots, when they work very well. For pacing, this is where you start to see me go into like the lower end of it. For pacing, I gave this movie a 7 out of 10. And I know obviously that's not like super low for me, but there was definitely in a time in this movie where, like I mentioned before, that by the time I like paused the movie and saw where the runtime was at, I was like, wow, I thought we had just gotten through a lot more of this movie. So some of the pacings could work out a little bit better, but I mean, the pacing doesn't necessarily affect when you're in the scenes of just watching the neighborhood just kind of flourish. And those scenes kind of keep you, engaged throughout the movie. There's just some moments where I'm like, all right, like let's get this moving along.
Yeah, I do agree. And despite my prior category like ratings, which are all pretty high, I also give it a 7 because it definitely has those lulls. I didn't really mind them, but looking at it from more of an objective standpoint, like there are some pacing issues with the film, in my opinion,
Yeah.
which I guess is counterintuitive to saying it's objective and then saying in my opinion, but you get the point. For acting, I'm curious to hear what you gave acting. I'm at an 8 or a 9. I'll put it at a 9. I thought everyone was really good. I mean, it's a crazy cast. Everyone felt real. Didn't
Yeah.
have any issues, but yeah, there also was it. There just wasn't anything to bring it to the 10. Like everyone was really good, but there was nothing to bring it up to the 10. So what do you have?
Yeah, I gave it an 8. There
Well,
were like some performances that I wasn't like a
yeah, change mine to an 8 because I agree. Things are popping in my head.
yeah. specifically Martin Lawrence. Like his character,
Really?
like I just couldn't really like grasp like like obviously he's in there. He's already a big name by this point in time, and you would think that like, oh, like it's Martin Lawrence, he's gonna be like, you know, a pretty prominent character, and he's just kind of like meh, doesn't really do anything for me. As much as I appreciated Smiley's role in the film, I don't know how well that is gonna age. Like that was, I don't know.
I loved Ossie Davis in this movie. He's probably my favorite performance, I would say,
Who's
as the mayor.
Smiley?
The mayor.
Oh, Demare, absolutely. He is one of the best performances in the movie. Like he plays his part to perfection as like this in facto like leader of the community who's just piss drunk all the time but still cares, and I think he was one of the better performances. Obviously Danny Aiello's performance as Sal, it's also just incredible to watch, but it's like what you said, like we either give nines or tens when we truly feel that it deserves it, but I feel like eight is the best score that I can possibly give the performances in this movie. So for suspension of disbelief, I gave this a 9 out of 10. There were definitely times, like towards the end, obviously it starts to feel more like a movie and more of the message, but that's just the style of Spike Lee. But for the rest of it, you are truly engrossed in the neighborhood of Bed-Stuy. Like you are a resident for the day, and it's a lot of fun when you are just watching the neighborhood. And Spike Lee just obviously grew up in this neighborhood. He grew up in this like era, and it truly shines through here. So props to him.
For suspension of disbelief, I give it an 8 out of 10. I think that some things had to be moviefied, I guess, in terms of like the way that things happen, the way that the people are talking to each other. I'm not sure. I could bump it up to a 9 because it does feel very like slice of life, like you're there as a fly on the wall. But an 8 just kind of feels right, in my opinion. For originality, I could maybe give it a 10. I'm going to give it a 9 for now. I'm curious to hear what you have to say, but just from the way that it's shot to the staying power that it's had, the influence that it's had over other movies that are made and other just Spike Lee in general. Yeah, I give it a 9 in terms of originality. What do you have for it there?
I gave it a 10.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, this this movie is definitely, it's very Spike Lee, obviously, because he made the movie. But I don't, I can't really recall a movie that wasn't a Spike Lee joint that has had this level of influence in the culture and this much activism in a movie that's just very straightforward, like very in your face, which I'm a huge fan of. I love the way that Spike Lee portrays his messages in his movies, and we don't get that without Do the Right Thing. So I feel like for the time that it was made in and the messages that it portrays and the way that it portrays it was very original for the time, and I don't think that we have gotten a movie like Do the Right Thing since it's come out, that wasn't directed by Spike Lee. And say like, yeah, the closest thing being like Fruitvale Station. Like Ryan Coogler is definitely like getting up
Totally
there.
different movie. Totally different movie.
Oh yeah. But in terms of like, you know, showing like the police brutality aspect of it and like kind of giving the message. Obviously, it's not like out in front of you like Spike does, but I think Ryan Coogler is up there with like a good blend of like movie making tactics and making stuff that's like critically acclaimed while also putting forth the message that he wants to put out there. Like, how do you get a message like that in a fucking Marvel movie? Like it's insane. Like with Black Panther, like
Mhm.
Ryan Coogler is definitely getting up there, but we don't get a Ryan Coogler without Spike Lee and Do the Right Thing.
Yeah, Do the Right Thing is also kind of like two. It can be two different movies in one movie, depending on how you want to watch it, and even just first half to last act, it's two different movies. So
Exactly.
for dang, I want this to be a 4.5 star movie, and it's not mathing out. All right, what do you have for attachment?
For attachment for me, I originally had it at a 2, but like talking about it more and more, I give it a 3. Or Actually, yeah, I give it a 3. It's just this is a movie that I didn't I had one I had one expectation going into this movie that it was going to be like a comedy. It's going to be something like a little slice of life in the early 80s or in the late 80s, early 90s, and it's just going to be fun, and it was until we got the Spike Lee message at the end, and it just changed the whole aspect of the movie for me and just left me like just with my jaw on the floor.
Yeah, I'm hovering between 3 and 4 here. I'm gonna give it a 3. This has a possibility to go up. I think I'm gonna watch this movie again sometime and then come back and we'll see. I could see my rating for this movie bumping up upon a rewatch, but for now I'm gonna land it at a 3, and that's what we're doing for all these movies is based upon the watch that we just had. So I'll park it at a 3, and I have a rating higher than you. I feel like that doesn't happen super often.
I actually am going to change a score in here. I'm going to go back to enjoyability and rewatchability, and just talking about it now, I think I can bump this up to a 12 with you, honestly,
Okay.
and push it up to 82.
If that's how you feel, then that's how you
No,
feel.
it is. Honestly, just talking about it more, like I feel like when I initially put my score out and was like rating it, I was just more like confused as to like what I had just watched, but talking about it now and just about how much this movie has impacted just like film and just like the culture at bay, like it's such an important movie. So I'll be up there with you with an 82. So
All
we'll
right.
see where that lands it in the list. This is the scary part, I feel like. It puts it
Right under
right
Grave
at
of the
the top
Fires.
10. So it puts it right above Cinema Paradiso.
I'm
82.
sorry. Give me 1 second here. This I don't know how you feel. This doesn't feel right to me. I'm
What, the
looking
score?
I'm looking at some of my past prior attachments and
You know what? I
I
do
wait,
feel a little
I
bit
gave so like I gave All About Eve a 3 out of 5. I gave The Pianist a 3 out of 5. I gave Two Towers a 3 out of 5.
and you
I
feel a
feel
little
more
bit more
attached to
attached
this
to this
movie than
one.
not. Like it feels like a movie. Like I really liked this movie. I'm putting
Yeah.
it at a 4. I'm putting it at a 4.
I'll join you there, buddy. I'll put it at a 4 too.
Look at us. See, you know what? You know what? Sometimes it's our fucking list.
This
We
movie
gotta
just
make
brings
the
us
moves.
together, dude. So that puts it at, hold on.
High, right by High and Low, which is super funny.
Oh my god. That's crazy. Holy crap. So yeah, it's in our top 10.
And hold on, let's see what High and Low, because this could go above it depending on whether or not. Yeah, I
Oh
gave
yeah,
High
because
and
it's
Low a
scored at an
3.
83. It's tied with High and Low. Oh shit, I
Yeah, but
forgot.
it should be above it because I gave High and Low a 3 out of 5 on attachment. Do the Right Thing has a 4. So
Gotcha. All right. So then we'll do it that way. So above High and Low. That's crazy.
and below Witness for the prosecution. That feels right to me. That
Yeah.
just feels like a good landing. How do you feel, Felix? I'm not
No,
trying to.
I feel good with it. Honestly,
Okay.
like it's
I know it
funny
puts it
because
above two Ghibli. It puts it above two Ghibli films.
that's
So,
fine with me.
all
I
right.
mean, just like in terms of like how important this movie is,
And I loved it. Like it's a
and
good
that
movie.
too. I'm like,
It's a
I
good
did like
movie.
thinking about it now. Like, I may just go and rewatch it just to like see how I feel more. Now that I'm like, I know what's going in. Like, I know going into it what it's going to be like. I feel like I can appreciate it more. I just felt like when at the end of the movie when that happens, I was like, I thought this movie was supposed to be funny, and then just and then everything just starts happening. Like I was like, this is too real. But no, it's great. I feel very comfortable with where it is now, which it's crazy that it's above High and Low that he's going to be remaking this year. So
We'll see how that goes.
I hope I have good hopes for it. Like I really want it to do good. It's A24, it's Spike Lee, Denzel Washington's in it. Like it should be good. It should be really good. It's not the Old Boy remake. But yeah, so with all of that, Do the Right Thing sits at the number 7 spot overall, very high up, above High and Low. That's crazy. So I'm all for that. No, I feel comfortable with it. Obviously, like I don't know, I really liked High and Low. Like it was that was probably one of the first movies that truly surprised me. And obviously, it's my first Kurosawa film, which Kurosawa influences fucking everybody in Hollywood. But like we don't get I feel like we don't get a lot of Spike Lee without Kurosawa, but I feel that it's just right that the student becomes the master. Has
Our entire top 20 are all movies that I genuinely like really like. Scroll down a little bit.
like the top 20, like after Nobody
Yeah.
Knows, it's Sancho the Bailiff, A Separation, The Ascent.
Those movies I'm definitely less crazy about. So I feel like 20 is a pretty like that's a good cutoff there. Like the
Yeah.
ones below it, I'm glad I watched, but didn't necessarily enjoy all that much. But our top 20, dude, is some
And
great
Fanny and
movies.
Alexander is still there towards the bottom of the top 20 list.
I know. Same with Love Exposure. I love those movies. I tell a lot of people about Love Exposure because I
Oh
think
yeah.
more people should watch that movie.
Same
All
here.
right,
Like
let's see what movie we're gonna watch next, though.
exactly.
We've been talking a lot about Old Boy this episode.
We have been. So I'm hoping that we just fucking get it already. Like I've been wanting to watch Old Boy for so long.
Me too. Me too.
I'm trying to see if I can see it. All right. Well, then we'll just dive into it. I see Neon Genesis Evangelion. I feel like and the Seventh Seal. I kind of want a Bergman film again.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's been a while. We were on a streak of Bergman, and now it's like he's been pretty absent. So we'll see what happens, dude. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Let's fucking do it, baby. Let's see. Oh my god.
Oh no, you're lagging.
Incendies. What? All right. Let's see. So for those listening, we pulled 2010's Incendies, which when we
Ooh,
pulled it was
it's
number.
Denis.
What's up?
It's Denis Villeneuve.
Oh, it's Danny Villeneuve. Oh shit!
Did I pronounce that right?
You did. You did not actually.
Did not.
So, oh hell yeah, I love Danny Villeneuve. So yeah, we got Incendies here. From 2010, directed by Danny Villeneuve. Right now, it is currently at a 4.4 average rating with 14,000 fans. It's bumped the fuck up and is
Yeah.
now at number 40.
It was at what, 51, 52?
52.
The search began at the opening of their mother's will. A mother's last wishes send twins Jan and Simon on a journey to Middle East in search of their tangled roots. Adapted from Wajdi Mawad's acclaimed play, Incendies tells the powerful and moving tale of two young adults' voyage to the core of deep-rooted hatred, never-ending wars, and enduring love. It's got a 131-minute runtime, so
Not the worst.
not too long for Denis.
Yeah, because Denny be loving those run times, dude.
Nice. Well, cool.
No, we love to
Incendies.
see it. I'm
I've
glad that
really
we're
enjoyed
getting something
movie.
that I haven't seen from Denny Villeneuve. Obviously, I loved Prisoners, loved Dune, loved Blade Runner. He's got a lot of shit.
A lot of my Letterboxd friends have seen this too, so I guess we've just been out of the loop.
Yeah, fucking Arrival too. Like Jesus, this man is cooking.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of like his filmography on Letterboxd, this is number 7 if you're reading it from like left to right, from like the most prominent to like the more like deep cut stuff. So I'm glad we're getting this. I'm glad that I'm getting to dive a little bit more into Denis Villeneuve's filmography. But Parker, it was such a pleasure to hop on with you and talk about Do the Right Thing. But as always, where can people find you?
Absolutely. Pleasure was all mine. You can find me on Letterboxd at Parker_Paget if you'd like to keep up with the other stuff I'm watching, like Sinners, which was good.
Good.
Gave it 4.5.
Fair.
86.
Yeah. It's definitely my favorite movie of the year, dude.
I saw it in 70 millimeter.
So did I.
But do all 70 movies that are shot in 70 millimeter, like, do they have those aspect ratio switches like that all the time?
Yeah, I feel like in terms of like going from like this to this.
Yeah.
Yes, that's like all IMAX, dude. Especially like in that scene alone where like, it's the ratio kind of like bleeds up like before that climactic scene. Like, yeah, that's how like it switches like ratios from like, because I think the entire film was shot in IMAX, but like there's some ratios that he wanted to play around with where it was like a regular aspect ratio and then IMAX level fucking ratios. But
That's what I mean. It felt, sometimes it was jarring to me. I don't know.
oh yeah, especially in 70 millimeter, like you're concentrating on one part of the screen and all of a sudden, boom, it just blows the fuck up. Like that's crazy.
No, more so when it would get smaller again.
Oh
Like,
yeah, true. Like you'd get like especially the beginning, but it's a whole other thing. Like we can dive deeper into that.
good movie though.
For
Glad I
more of
saw
those conversations, you should probably follow our my Letterboxd at Etzio911, ETZIO911, and LetterBros Pod on Instagram. But yeah, just a reminder again, we are going to be switching to every other Friday for releases. It's just going to be better for the content. It's going to be better for our lives, and it's just going to be a good time. We'll be able to, enjoy the movies a little bit more without feeling crunched, and it's going to be a good time for sure. But as always, this is the LetterBros podcast, and we will see you at the movies. Fight the power.
We got to fight the powers that be.